What if the so-called missing years of Jesus, those quiet, enigmatic years between his youth and public ministry, were not actually lost? What if the truth had been meticulously preserved in Africa's highlands, safeguarded within ancient texts, penned in a language predating Latin, obscured not by time, but by the boundaries of Western perspectives? This isn't mere historical curiosity. It's a sacred legacy maintained by one of the oldest Christian communities on earth. Uncolonized and deeply devout Ethiopia may hold the answer to a long-forgotten part of Jesus' life. Comment 1 if you've never heard about Ethiopia's role in early Christianity. Comment 2 if you already knew there was more to Jesus' story than what's in the Western Bible. Prior to being recognized as the Messiah before his baptism in the Jordan and the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus was a divine child, wise and powerful beyond human grasp. His early story endures in Ethiopia. The New Testament's canonical Gospels feature a sudden gap in Jesus' biography spanning the years from age 12 to 30. Our last view of young Jesus appears in Luke 2:41-52, where he amazes the temple elders in Jerusalem with his wisdom during Passover. Following this event, a nearly 20-year gap ensues, commonly referred to as Jesus' silent or hidden years. The Bible provides no record of Jesus' teenage years, early adult life, or the journey that led to his public teachings. This enigmatic period has sparked centuries of theories and non-canonical texts seeking to bridge the narrative gap. Although canonical texts are silent, numerous apocryphal and historical writings, often excluded from Orthodox Christianity, attempt to reconstruct this obscure period. One of the most compelling sources is the Ethiopian Bible. Widely regarded by scholars as the oldest complete biblical canon, this sacred text, still honored by the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, offers narrative depth, spiritual revelations, and miraculous episodes from Jesus' undocumented years. In contrast to Christian traditions spread through colonization, Ethiopia's relationship with Christianity predates many Western religious structures, granting its scriptures a distinctive and potentially older viewpoint. Ethiopia's significance in religious history stems not only from its spiritual heritage, but also from its rare distinction as an African nation that successfully resisted colonial rule. This long-standing autonomy enabled Ethiopia to safeguard ancient manuscripts, traditions, and sacred artifacts without European imperial intervention or suppression. The Ethiopian Bible, composed in the ancient Ge'ez tongue, encompasses 88 books, significantly more than the 66 included in the commonly used King James Version. Comment 1 if you believe lost or excluded scriptures still hold truth. Comment 2 if you're curious to explore what else the Ethiopian canon reveals. These supplementary texts comprise apocrypha, expanded Old Testament accounts, and in-depth stories absent from mainstream Christian theology. In contrast to cultures that embraced Christianity via missionary outreach, Ethiopia's Christian roots have been native since at least the 4th century AD, if not earlier. This unbroken heritage and immunity to colonization have helped sustain the Ethiopian Orthodox Church as one of the world's oldest and most intact Christian bodies. Over the past 1,600 years, Ethiopia's scriptural and oral traditions have remained notably consistent, offering vital insights into how early Christians might have perceived Jesus' life and teachings, especially during the so-called missing years. Ethiopia, often cloaked in mystery, is renowned not just for its scriptures, but also for claims regarding the Ark of the Covenant. Although mainstream archaeology has yet to verify the Ark's existence or location, Ethiopian tradition firmly maintains that it is housed in the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion in Axum. This belief stems from the Kebre Nagast, an ancient Ethiopian manuscript that connects the country to biblical Israel. The Kebre Nagast recounts that Menelik I, son of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, transported the Ark to Ethiopia. Though this story is a topic in itself, it highlights Ethiopia's deep entwinement with biblical traditions. Such links have lent internal legitimacy to Ethiopia's extended biblical canon within its own tradition. Regarding Jesus' hidden years, the Ethiopian Bible offers not merely a spiritual perspective, but a profound cultural legacy. The notion that Jesus' youth is recorded in this ancient canon is more than theological conjecture. It represents a continuous tradition maintained in monasteries and oral storytelling for generations. The Ethiopian Bible features writings Western Christianity has either discarded, labeled apocryphal, or lost entirely, such as the Book of Enoch, the Ascension of Isaiah, and various Infancy Gospels that illuminate Jesus' early life. Take the Book of Enoch. It was popular and frequently referenced by early Christian figures like Tertullian, but later church councils excluded it from the Western canon. In contrast, Ethiopia continues to regard it as scripture offering valuable context for Christian end-times theology and insights into Jesus' mystical heritage and youth. Whereas the King James Bible, compiled in 1611 under King James I by 47 scholars with political and religious agendas, is a relatively recent creation, the Ethiopian canon represents an older and more naturally developed scripture. This canon incorporates oral traditions and religious writings that had been in circulation since shortly after Jesus' death. The contrast in preservation reveals that numerous stories now labeled as apocryphal or lost were once deemed sacred and authentic in Ethiopia, long before Western theologians removed them from the official biblical canon. There is a common misconception that Christianity came to Africa via colonization, yet Ethiopia's Christian heritage is as ancient as Christianity itself. Historical evidence shows that Ethiopia adopted Christianity as its state religion in the 4th century, well before the Roman Empire made it official. This assertion is bolstered by historians such as Cosmas Indicopleustes, a 6th century monk and traveler who recorded Christian activities in the ancient kingdom of Axum. His accounts depict a flourishing Christian society, complete with established churches, theological discussions, and refuge for persecuted Christians from abroad. These details reveal Ethiopia not merely as a recipient of Christianity, but as one of its foundational centers. Ethiopian Christians were not latecomers. They were pioneers and guardians of early Christian theology and mystical practice. The survival of writings portraying Jesus' childhood as imbued with divine authority, healing, and insight reflects Ethiopia's deeply embedded theological heritage. It further suggests that the Western view of Jesus' life is lacking without recognizing these ancient alternative sources. In 2010, researchers uncovered an illustrated gospel composed in Ge'ez, a historic South Semitic language that remains in use during Ethiopian religious services. The manuscript was located in a secluded mountaintop monastery, isolated from modern influences. This find strengthened the belief that Ethiopia has maintained a genuine early Christian heritage. The gospel features vivid symbolic illustrations and texts not found in Western scriptures, shedding light on early perspectives of Jesus' life, especially his childhood. In contrast to the sparse accounts in the Synoptic Gospels, these Ge'ez manuscripts portray Jesus as fully immersed in his divine calling from an early age. They reveal an awareness of his messianic role well before his baptism, a concept generally absent in Western teachings. The images assist scholars in grasping how Ethiopian Christians viewed Jesus not only as a teacher and redeemer, but as a timeless figure with divine authority apparent from infancy. Some of the most captivating texts found in Ethiopia are the Infancy Gospels, which recount extraordinary occurrences in Jesus' early years. A famous account tells of Jesus shaping birds from clay and animating them, symbolizing divine creativity. Though also found in apocryphal works such as the Infancy Gospel of Thomas, its preservation and esteem in Ethiopian Christianity indicate it was regarded as an authentic portrayal of Christ's divine nature from childhood. Although excluded from most Western Bibles, these narratives were not viewed as mythical in Ethiopia. They formed a part of both oral and written scripture in a pious community that believed Jesus' supernatural abilities were evident well before his public ministry at age 30. Including tales of Jesus healing wounded laborers, such as Joseph the carpenter, and even reviving the dead, these stories enhance the spiritual image of Christ and offer insight into how his ministry might have evolved privately before becoming public. Comment 1 if you believe Jesus' divine nature was visible even in childhood. Comment 2 if you've always wondered what those missing years were really like. Among the most striking Ethiopian stories are those where Jesus wields power over life and death. One narrative describes a child who angered Jesus and was killed only to be revived later by Jesus' compassion. These accounts present Jesus not merely as a divine child, but as a powerful, nuanced being grappling with human emotions and supernatural authority. Though absent from standard biblical texts, these tales present a vivid mosaic of early Christian belief and imagination, regarding Jesus' character. They emphasize the awe, mystery, and divine force associated with Jesus, even in childhood elements largely missing from the historically oriented synoptic Gospels. Through such stories, Ethiopian Christianity maintains a comprehensive vision of Jesus as fully human and fully divine, from his birth through his resurrection. Whereas Western Christianity emphasizes Jesus' public ministry, his baptism teachings, miracles, crucifixion, and resurrection, the Ethiopian tradition encourages reflection on the sanctity of his entire life, including the lesser-known years. This expanded view deepens our comprehension of Jesus blending spiritual doctrine with lived experience and historical setting. In summary, Jesus' silent years are still shrouded in mystery, yet Ethiopia's preserved scriptures and traditions offer a steady line of faith that reveres every phase of his life, his youth, insight, and divine calling. It encourages us to look beyond canonical scripture and recognize how faith and historical narrative vary across cultures. Thank you for participating in this journey into Jesus' hidden years. To further explore Ethiopia's biblical legacy and its role in Christian history, please subscribe and stay with us.